So today we're going to talk about the pen model. And the pen model is the training wheel version of the Big Five. So for those of you looking at the textbook, the DSA Curriculum book, that is going to be chapter 4. Okay. The cool thing about the pen model is that it effectively tells you how to be the perfect guy for every fucking woman you ever meet, ever. Um, in fact, it's so fun that I teach it to women to show them that I'm the perfect guy. All right. So the pen model is a a 3 dimension personality assessment. Again, baby version of the Big Five. So Big Five has 5. Pen model literally just has the 3. Okay. So P stands for psychoticism. Got to sound things out. Psychoticism, extraversion, and neuroticism. Cool. All right. So we definitely know what these two are because they're in the Big Five, right? Extroversion is exactly what it sounds like. Neuroticism, I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum and will continue to do so until the sun eats up the earth, basically, because it's relevant and important. So we're going to skip those two and the description of those two because we know what they are, right? Neuroticism is essentially how sensitive to negative emotions you are. Extroversion is, are you fueled by social interactions? All right. Psychoticism, on the other hand, you could pretty much put this as like the polar opposite of conscientiousness in the Big Five, right? So someone that's high in trait psychoticism is more rebellious. They are very go with the flow, like they're driven by their emotions, not so much by their sense of responsibility or duty at all, right? So, if someone wakes up in the morning and they're like, fuck it, I don't feel like going to work today. They don't. That's someone that's high in trait psychoticism, right? Someone that's low in trait psychoticism is very dutiful. They do what they say they're going to do, right? It's everything we described in trait conscientiousness. Why is this important? Well, it turns out that the pen model correlates very, 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 very strongly with another study that was done on the 4 types of men that women consider universally attractive. And that is the bad boy. Probably just no surprise here. So 1 is the bad boy, 2 is the leader, 3 is the nice guy. Turns out women do find him attractive. And 4 is the provider. Now, here's something worth knowing, okay? The bad boy, you can think of all of these 4 types of these 4 categories of men, as it were, as one-dimensional beings. Like they are just they're very, very at face value what they are, right? There's nothing more to them. They're one-dimensional characters, right? So the bad boy is just someone that is willing to break the rules, break social norms, and fuck it, we're doing things regardless of consequence, and he's exciting. Okay. The leader is a leader of men. He basically facilitates what we're going to do. He usually decides, and he's like, all right, guys, we're going to go over to this event now, follow me, right? The leader. The nice guy, exactly what he sounds like, except that the nice guy is, what would you say? He's attentive. He's attentive to her emotional state, her emotional well-being, where she is, and turns out that that is attractive. Just if it's one-dimensional, not so much. But we'll cover what that means here in a second. The provider is also one dimensional, but that just means he's only there to facilitate like wealth and resources, finances, right? And so I'm not saying that to like belittle anyone who identifies with nice guy or provider or anything like that, right? I'm just saying it's the right way to look at the pen model as it relates to the four categories of men that women find universally attractive, right? So what's interesting is that psychoticism, a woman that, relates to high psychoticism, is very much naturally attracted to the bad boy. Why? Because he makes decisions regardless of consequences. And she is very much motivated by emotional spikes, emotional highs. She loves that. That's what excites her, right? A woman that's high in extroversion is very much attracted to the leader. Now, the leader himself does not have to be an extrovert, although it is usually the case. However, a leader could be someone that doesn't talk very much, but has a lot of power, a decisive power, no less, right? Maybe he has to go to a lot of networking functions, conferences, right? And so he's there that he's the one that decides what the group is doing. And so in that way, he facilitates her need to be extroverted, to be social. And then someone that's high in trait neuroticism, which is to say sensitive to negative emotions, uh, is very appreciative, generally speaking, to the nice guy because he's patient, he's kind, he's considerate. He gives a fuck when she's, feeling down and feeling insecure. And so he's there to help her out. And then you might be thinking, all right, Chris, well, the Penn model has three, and the four categories of men is four. Your math is off. It's like, well, kind of. This, the provider, is universally considered attractive. That's true. The problem is, again, as one-dimensional characters, the provider is always everybody's second choice, right? So I forget the study. It's in the book. I can cite it or find it here in a second, but right now I'm just focused on teaching you the concepts. Um, the provider's everybody's second choice. And that's because he doesn't really have a personality. There's nothing really going for him. He spent his entire life working for wealth and material gain, and he got it, and he's attractive. And now he lives in a mansion and has an amazing pool and, has the life that everybody seems to want as far as material gain is concerned. But he works all the time, and when he's not working, he doesn't really have that much of a personality. Again, dimensional characters. So, what does this mean? This means that if a woman is dating a provider, right, that she's very, very likely to cheat on the provider, provided, puns, that she meets her ideal type. So if a woman's, highly extroverted and she's dating a provider, if she meets a leader, even if he doesn't have as much money or status, but he's like decisive, like it's just a part of him, right? Then she's more likely to either cheat or leave the provider for the leader, as it were. Now, what's really cool is that because these are all one dimensional characters, caricatures, as it were, um, that they don't really exist, right? Human beings aren't one dimensional. So, what does that mean for you? Well, it does mean that you can identify with one or more of the four types of men, and you probably do. So let's just say you're like, yeah, I'm probably a nice guy and a provider. It's like, all right, cool. You are two out of the four. Got it. So you're like, I don't really identify with the bad boy, and I'm more introverted, so I don't really identify with the leader. I kind of just keep to myself. Fair enough. You are likely going to attract women high in trait neuroticism. And if I had to guess, because I market primarily to divorced men, one of the reasons that you got divorced, right? Because there's plenty of reasons why people get divorced. But one of the reasons is you feel like you did everything, she didn't appreciate it, and either she withdrew when you were trying to fight for the relationship, or you withdrew when she was trying to fight for the relationship, right? Going back to the big five and the two sub personality types. In fairness, the Penn model doesn't account for withdrawal and volatility, but neuroticism is neuroticism and it translates pretty damn well. Um, Basically, the Penn model was just, it was made by a German psychologist named Hans Eisnick. Um, and so he kind of took credit for his own personality assessment that's slightly different, but not exactly the same. It's just ego in academia. That's why it's different, but it's not. Anyways. um yeah, so if you're like, oh wow, that makes sense, that fits, cool. If it doesn't, then let me know, make a comment or something. I'm not sure how this is going to work as far as like a live recording goes because no one's attending. I'm just teaching a class right now. But if you're like, all right, I'm going to work on becoming more of a leader and a bad boy, so I have all four types of, the universal characters of what makes a guy attractive. Then what you get to do is every time you meet a woman, and again, I talk about teaching these, hey, he's like screaming. Okay. Um, Yeah, so every time, you meet someone, and I'm a big fan of teaching people, especially women, what you're learning, um, that, "Hey, I learned about this cool personality model called the Penn model, and how it correlates with, like, the 4 categories of men that women find universally attractive. Tell me what you think," right? And so you basically break it down in the same way that I have for you, maybe not with a pen and paper, but, it's pretty simple, it's easy to follow. And then you describe how each one is maximally attracted to the other. What do you think? Does this describe your dating history? And more often than not always, because it's not as accurate as the big five, but more often than not, women will be like, wow, that really does describe like the type of men that I attract. And so effectively, what that does is it gives you the opportunity to say, without saying it, I can be the perfect guy for you. If the goal is to maximize your the characters that you can embody as far as, universally attractive, then working on, let's just say your sense of humor, that qualifies under bad boy, by the way, because generally speaking, humor breaks social norms. Like you have to break social norms in order to be funny. Like that's usually how that works. Usually. Being a leader is essentially just being decisive. Hey guys, I have a cool idea. What if we all went and did, I don't know, karaoke, got ice cream, right? Hey, come help me, carry some drinks. I'll buy a round for everybody, whatever it is, right? But as long as you're facilitating the fun and people are down, then congratulations, you fall under the leader category. So now if we're funny, we're, what would you say? Facilitating fun, we're attentive to everyone's needs, and, let's just say we're buying drinks for the group, not for the one person that we're trying to attract. Then you can embody very easily all four categories of men in one fell swoop. And here's the kicker: each of these four categories of men have a fatal flaw. So let's go over here and we'll use purple. All right, so they have a fatal flaw, which is to say that the bad boy can be an asshole. The leader can be bossy and cold. The nice guy can be clingy and needy. And the provider, well, the provider is pretty much boring. He doesn't have anything else going for him. His life might be fun. What he can, facilitate might be fun. But then he's stepping into the leader category if he can, if he wants to be, if he's creative enough, right? But otherwise, he's just never around and people just have access to his wealth, right? So if you can be the bad boy without being an asshole, you get extra cool points. And by the way, this is why women say, yeah, I love a bad boy, but man, I seem to attract assholes. It's like, yeah, because most people who are unconscious about the fact that they are just happen to be a bad boy by their natural temperament as a rule breaker don't give a shit about following social norms. And so, yes, they can be assholes, right? But you, as a conscious, skilled social engineer, learning to improve your dating life and become an awesome dude, you can separate and create a distinction between bad boy who's dangerous but not a threat from not being an asshole. Because that's what you want, right? You want to be enticing and dangerous, as it were, but not actually, right? Um, the leader who's decisive, his fatal flaw is that he can be bossy as shit. And so you have to be hyper conscious of the fact that, yeah, sometimes when you're making decisions, you're going to piss people off. Ideally, you wouldn't, but the world isn't perfect. Sometimes you're going to piss people off. The nice guy, he's super attentive, right? He cares about your feelings. But if he's too attentive, if he cares too much, then he's pretty much always up your ass and he comes off as clingy and needy. And then when he's feeling down, maybe he's a bit neurotic as well, then even more so, he comes off as clingy. Like, why won't you meet my needs, right? Which is a fair point, just so we're clear. But the idea is that we want someone who is self-sufficient, right? A nice guy on a mission, not really clingy. He's on a mission. Um, a leader who has nice guy qualities, yeah, he might be. He's less likely to be bossy, as it were, right? And a bad boy leader, nice guy combination, which by the way most people don't have, and you can consciously embody and practice, means that you can avoid the fatal flaws. And that, in a nutshell, is the pen model. So I hope this was useful to you. I hope this was a fun class. Um, I, I mean, we can't really do Q&A, but maybe we can go over Q&A about the pen model next time. If you guys want to learn more about this, let me know in the Skool group. Just make a post about it and ask questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. But hope this was helpful. My pro tip: talk about the pen model when you meet people, when you meet women. It's a lot easier to go over their 3 personality types here as opposed to their big 5 and each subdimension beneath that. Again, this is the training wheel version, but it's really, really fun, really effective, and really, really cool to talk about. And you look like a badass because you avoid the fatal flaws that all of their exes seem not to be able to avoid, and you get the best of every one of these qualities. So, cool. Hope that was helpful. Till next time.